Welcome back to another Spurs film study. Today we're going to take a deeper dive into my favorite Victor Wembanyama possessions in what was the first 50-point game of his young career, starting with the opening set of the game. Rather than come out of the gates and predictably draw up something for Wemby, Mitch Johnson uses misdirection to leverage his scoring gravity with this chin action, which is just a back screen for a player who passed the ball to the opposite wing. Because Washington is so concerned with Vic getting downhill, two defenders are going to chase him into the paint, leaving Julian Champagnie and Chris Paul free to get into this high pick and roll. But with Jordan Poole scrambling to recover, Bub Carrington remaining attached to CP3, and numbers on their side, Champagnie is going to ghost the screen and flare out to the perimeter for a lightly contested three to get San Antonio on the scoreboard. There's often this misconception that coaches have specific play calls on every possession, but some of the best offense is based off of basic principles, quick reads, and organic player movement. Here in semi-transition, Stephon Castle is going to get into this empty angled pick and roll with Wemby, reject the screen once he sees Alex Sarr in deep drop coverage, drag the drive out to lure Poole out of the picture, and whip this hook pass to Vic for a wide open three ball. The Spurs established Wemby as a decoy and a shooter, and a minute later they turned to him as a primary ball handler with this inverted pick and roll, so let's pause. Bilal Coulibaly is going to soft show to deter Vic from pulling off the bounce, but that only opens a tiny window for Wemby to squeeze this pass over the top to Castle, who has no problem finishing at the rim with Poole offering no real weak side help on the roll. Even though the shot doesn't fall, I really like this stagger twirl action from San Antonio, where Champagnie curls the first screen from Vic, and then Vic turns around to use the second screen from Harrison Barnes to get a pristine look from deep. It's a unique action usually reserved for guards, but look for them to sprinkle this in here and there for Wemby. Let's fast forward to the second quarter. This time, Paul kicks it up top to Wembanyama for some delay zoom action, so let's freeze once Champagnie slips the screen. As you can probably see, this causes Keyshawn George and Corey Kispert to collide momentarily, which creates a runway for Blake Wesley to round the corner on this dribble handoff. Notice how this leaves Jonas Valanciunas in a compromised position, backpedaling in drop coverage, trying to cover two men at once. And Blake delivers a perfect pocket pass to Vic that leads him to the hoop for an and one over his veteran counterpart. Nothing super special from the Spurs here, just an angled pick and roll on the wing. However, I really love how CP3 sets up his man to waltz right into the Wemby rescreen before engaging the drop coverage big in Jonas to ensure Vic has all the daylight he needs to unfurl another catch and shoot triple. We talked about this pistol slip high-low action in our previous video, and the Spurs put a small twist on it to exploit the fact Valanciunas was sitting so deep inside the paint. Instead of Wemby looking to hit Wesley for a layup, he has all the time in the world to set his feet and launch another three. Shortly thereafter, we get another quick hitter from the Spurs where Wesley chases his pass to Vic for an empty inverted pick and roll that leaves Jonas struggling to recover as Wemby glides to the rim for a two-handed slam. And this rudimentary elbow chase action works so well because of the surrounding personnel and their positioning on the court, so let's stop for a tick. With proven shooters like Champagnie and Barnes on the right side of the court, Kispert and Coulibaly are out of the equation. Wemby is too much of a threat for Sarr to help, so he stays glued to his fellow countrymen. And that means this mere millisecond of miscommunication clears a path for Blake to take it all the way to the rack. The silver and black love working out of a horns formation in a half-court setting. Here they run horns out chin into an angled pick and roll with Devin Vassell and Wemby. Even when things seemingly stall to a halt, Dev's footwork to set up a backdoor cut, and Vic's heads-up passing earn the former a trip to the charity stripe. And the literal next time down, San Antonio runs horns keep into a corner zoom action for Vassell. It doesn't yield anything, but it keeps Vic involved as a playmaker and gets Devin into rhythm with a play designed to get him a clean shot. A few moments later, the Spurs run this flat middle baseline out of bounds set that frees Wemby for a clean catch at the top of the key, so he can flow into another inverted pick and roll with Vassell and get going downhill against Sarr. He draws a foul, and I would love to see him seek out more contact and live at the free throw line like Anthony Davis, Giannis, or even Joel Embiid. For example, after setting a flex screen for Devin and flashing to the elbow for this isolation on Sarr, Wemby hits him with a gorgeous spin move off the dribble, but somehow gets his shot blocked, double clutching the layup instead of veering into the rookie to coerce a whistle from the officials. And that's where 50 points could easily become 60 in the future. Here's an elevator baseline set San Antonio ran for Vassell to manufacture an open three and keep their hopes alive against the Grizzlies last season. The Spurs often line up in this three-stack alignment with Wemby on the opposite block. This is such a fun setup because you can disguise several options to generate a lob, screen for a shooter, or get into a dribble handoff with the inbounder, and it all plays off the opponent's fearing Wemby near the rim. Devin misses Champagny in the corner, and with Vic blanketed by two defenders, the swingman follows his pass to Vic for a DHO3 that misses the target, but I would bookmark this for late game situations down the road. The last couple of plays didn't produce any points for the Spurs, and this one doesn't either, but interim coach Mitch Johnson ran this creative delay zoom Spain set that deserves a closer look. Everything starts with a pass to a trailing Wembanyama, who changes directions to dribble into this zoom action that helps Barnes turn the corner, but let's freeze. That back pick from Castle for Vic as he rolls to the paint off this screen is known as Spain action. And as we can see from the big man pointing to the sky for a lob, it worked to perfection. But unfortunately, Barnes isn't the best left-handed passer, and he forces a tough floater in a crowd. But the Spurs go right back to the drawing board with that three-stack baseline formation we discussed earlier, and the off-ball scramble is enough to isolate Wemby on the Texas logo for a bank shot that would make Timmy Duncan proud. Remember how San Antonio used that pistol slip trailer action in semi-transition in the first half? Well, they went right back to the well with Wemby in the groove and punished Sarr for giving the Parisian phenom too much breathing room. And without any genuine defensive adjustments from Washington, CP3 decided to run another up-tempo angled pick and roll the moment he caught Sarr in deep drop coverage, and that's too much airspace for an alien on a heater. Check out this sideline out of bounds set named Slap 5 that Pop called in the season opener, because Mitch Johnson is about to break it out again. So why does it work? 1, they run this sparingly to keep their opponent guessing. 2, and most importantly, it subverts expectations. Though it looks like Wemby is going to use the rip screen from Barnes to make a beeline to the basket, that's never the intention. Instead, once Sarr and George commit to sinking into the paint to obstruct Vic, all he has to do is pop out to the perimeter and he has a wide open 3-ball. I want Spurs fans to take note of this run-of-the-mill double drag action on this possession that gets Vic to 40 points. You'll see it pop up again before we close things out, I promise that. And it's also a great way to generate a mismatch against a switch-heavy defense, which is precisely what happens when Kispert gets stuck alone in Area 51 with Wembanyama. And when you have a 9-foot release point on your jumper, there might as well be no defender there at all. We've discussed Horn's pinch flex at length on this channel, and it's been a staple for the Spurs over the last 2 seasons. At its best, it builds Vic a head full of steam coming out of the corner for a slam. And while that wasn't the case this go-round, Wemby still drew a foul that got San Antonio closer to the bonus, a more than acceptable outcome in a close game like this one. Though this has been a mostly Wembanyama-centric analysis, it's important to talk about how his teammates can play off the advantages he creates with his mere presence alone. San Antonio rolls out some more double drag action to force the young Wizards to communicate and coerce a mismatch. And that's exactly what happens as Vic catches George on the screen, and that gives CP3 the green light to attack Jonas for one of his patented mid-range jumpers. Oh, and what do you know? The Spurs say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and go right back to that same action to get Valanciunas on an island. We've already seen Paul punish the veteran big for having cement blocks for feet, and the 39-year-old puts on the afterburners to beat him to the 10 for a sneaky scoop off the glass. All in all, it was an unbelievable outing for Wemby, who had his first career 50-burger and impacted the game from the opening tip to the final buzzer. And for the X's and O's sickos, it was an impressive strategic showcase from Mitch Johnson as he steers the ship with Coach Pop on the mend.